Om. 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 Sahana bhavatu, Sahano bhunaktu, Sahaviryam karavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu, Ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shantihi. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye. Hari Om, Jai Gurudev. So yesterday we were looking at Shri Bhagwan's reply to Arjuna's question for the Chanchalamana. Bhagwan has suggested Abhyasena Vairagyena cha Kaunteya. By taking care of the child within, you can achieve the Samadarshita. And in that discussion, Bhagwan had, Swamiji had beautifully described how we see the object and how we have this buddhi, antic buddhi, which can be an obstacle to vairagya. I will just read a paragraph before that, and then we can, if you want me to repeat or read anything further, just let me know. There are people who want to collect and own certain objects to the point that it becomes an obsession with them. They call it an investment, but they will not part with it. For something to be an investment, you have to be able to sell it. But they will not sell because they have developed such an attachment for the object. There is no investment here. There is only a new problem that has been created. Only when the antic buddhi goes away, when the person can look at the object objectively, can there be vairagya. Vairagya is knowing that an object is just an object. When a subjective value superimposed upon an object is gone, then the object is just the object. This holds for all objects, that there is Shobhana Dhyasa, a superimposition that has taken place naturally, an extra attribute that does not really exist in an object has to be recognized. Therefore, again and again, I see the object as it is, and in the wake of this knowledge, the superimpositions also go. This does not mean that you need to continually remind yourself, this is not an antique, this is not an antique. Such a japa you need not do. But with reference to money, power, and acceptance of others, abhyasa and vairagya are both necessary. Seeing the limitations of objects and situations over and over again is very important if one is to master the mind. Repetition is necessary because the superimposition is not a deliberate thing. It is not a mistake that you have made by taking something to be more valuable than it is. If it were a mistake, a one-time correction is adequate. Then there is objectivity. But here, it is not by a one-time mistake that there is superimposition. It is by your being what you are, a psychological being, very firmly rooted in terms of your concept of success. Please remember this line, very important. Here, it is not by a one-time mistake that there is superimposition. It is by your being what you are. a psychological being, very firmly rooted in terms of your concept of success. All concepts of success and vairagya, dispassion, are within the range of psychology alone. Vairagya is nothing but the emotional growth of the person. Growth is strictly in terms of understanding the limitations of an object or situation again and again until the superimposition falls apart. Then the world does not have a hold over you. Otherwise, the mind runs towards certain objects naturally because they have been given such importance by the society. So here, beautifully, Swamiji is distinguishing between the values we put in the object, situation, and people. The values, again, here I just want to bring to your notice the personal values, the personal priorities, and the universal values. If they are synchronized, then there will be no conflict. There will be no vikshepa. There will be no confusion. There is a certain pain involved with reference to certain old objects, what you could not get before, what you have lost in the past, which can cause problems in the mind. Whereas if vairagya is there, the old failures, those things that were sources of some pain for you, fall apart, and new objects also do not have any hold over you. This is what is meant by seeing the limitations, dosha darshana, again and again, thereby bringing about a cognitive change which frees the mind to a greater extent. So beautiful. By abhyasa and vairagya, then the mind can be mastered. Manah grihyate. The mind that is always chattering, always preaching, the mind that is in the form of agitation, because it is away from the dhyaya, the object of meditation, Atma, this mind, this agitation that is so difficult to master can be mastered. But you cannot simply sit there and expect the mind to take care of itself. You have to pay some attention to it, as Krishna says here. Asanyatmatmana yogo dushprap iti me matihi vashyatmana tu yatata shakyo vaptumupayatah. Asanyat atmana, by the one for whom the mind is not mastered, yoga, dushprapaha, difficult to gain, iti, thus, my, matihi, vision, tu, whereas, vashyatmana, by the one whose mind is mastered, yatata, by the one who makes effort, upayatah, with the proper means, that is practice and objectivity. Avaptum shakyaha, it can be gained. Asanyat atmana yogah dushprapah iti me matihi tu vashyatmana yatata upayatah avaptum shakyaha. Yoga is difficult to gain for the one by whom the mind is not mastered. This is my vision. Whereas it can be gained by the one whose mind is mastered, who makes effort with the proper means, that is, practice and objectivity. I repeat once again the meaning. Yoga is difficult to gain one by whom mind is not mastered. This is my vision, whereas it can be gained by the one whose mind is mastered, makes effort with proper means, that is practice and objectivity. Now, in every explanation, please remember the sixth verse, that we have to do this by our own self and our own self alone. One who does not practice meditation, abhyasa, and who does not have objectivity, vairagya, is called. Please let me know if my voice is breaking, because there is again constant message that your internet is not
It is
stable.
breaking little. Okay. It can be managed.
Yeah, please let me know if you want me to repeat anything which you could not hear. One who does not practice meditation, abhyasa, and who does not have objectivity, vairagya, is called asamyatma atma. In this verse, meaning that the mind is not brought under control. And can the mind be brought under control? Yes, Krishna says, but with difficulty. It is dushprapa. Furthermore, unless the mind is mastered, it is not possible to gain the yoga being discussed here, the capacity to see the sameness that exists in all beings and in which all beings exist. What Krishna says here is his vision, mati, which is not the same as an opinion, since it is not something that can be contended and dismissed. So here Bhagavan is saying that mind is difficult to attain, dushprapa. But if you mastered that mind, then the yoga can happen. And that is Bhagwan's vision. By the practice of abhyasa and vairagya, the mind is brought into one's own hands, which is why the person who can do this is also called vashyatma here. Such a person is always alert. I think yesterday Brahmaraji had beautifully brought that word vashi. I hope you can just remember, the one who has prasad buddhi, the one who accepts everything as an offering. Here, vashyatma, who can do the practice of abhyasa and vairagya. Such a person is always alert. Alertness is something that should always be with you, not something practiced for a period of time. For example, you cannot say that you practiced alertness for 6 years and it was very good, just as you cannot say you practiced breathing for 6 years. It's not as though you give up breathing after having practiced it for some time. It is your very life. Alertness is the same. By such a person who continues to maintain this alertness, yatata, by the one who has a certain mastery over his mind, vashyatmana, it is possible to gain the vision of sameness, yoga avaptum shakyah. So alertness is not something which you can practice for temporary. It is your very nature. You cannot say that you practice breathing and now you have given up. Alertness is the very nature. And the one who maintains that alertness he has the mastery over his mind. Not something to be done. Krishna mentions in this verse that this yoga is gained by a particular means, upayatah. And what is that means? Upaya, Abhyasa and Vairagya are the means for gaining this vision, as Krishna had already told Arjuna. Because Abhyasa and Vairagya are the means, Arjuna's gaining the yoga was no longer in Krishna's hands, because Krishna has already covered the subject matter. Now, this is something that has to be done, and it is up to Arjuna to do it. He has to pay attention to his mind. Krishna had said everything he could say. There was nothing more to be taught, only something to be done. Vairagya and Abhyasa would take care of any problems, any obstructions to gaining the knowledge. This is why Krishna does not say very much about the doing of it. So, Vairagya and Abhyasa are the two master keys which Bhagavan has already given us before. So, it is you don't have to make any effort for that. It is already done. When there is something to be discussed, like the Vastu, Brahmatma, then one can talk indefinitely, which is what Krishna does. And which is why there are 18 chapters of the Gita. But here, there is something to be done by Arjuna. Therefore, Krishna leaves it at that. You will find that Krishna talks a lot about Atma, about the wise person, about the weak. But when it comes to meditation, which is to be done, there are only a few verses because it is something to be done. And that can be possible only with Abhyasa and Vairagya. Wherever there is something to be done, Krishna states it briefly and adequately, and then continues on. Whereas wherever something is to be unfolded, he goes on and on because it is something that has to be understood, not something that has to be done. So very beautifully Bhagwan is taking us to the real yoga. Anyone wants me to repeat any paragraph before we go to the next verse? Or anyone would like to discuss about the points what Bhagwan and Swamiji has beautifully explained? Okay, so I will just proceed to the next verse. In the next verse, Arjuna presents another problem, which is purely an imagined problem. Arjuna Vacha Ayati Shraddhayopeto Yoga Chalitamaanasaha Aprapya Yoga Samsiddhim Kamgatim Krishna Gacchati. Arjuna Uvacha said, Krishna, O Krishna, Shraddhaya, with faith in the Shastra, Upetaha, endowed, Ayatihi, one of inadequate effort, Yoga, from yoga, Chalita Manasaha, one whose mind wanders away, Yoga Sansiddhim, success in yoga, Aprapya, not gaining, Kam Gatim Gachati, to which end does he or she go? Arjuna Uvacha, O Krishna, Shraddhaya Upetaha, Ayatihi, Yogat Chalita Manasaha, Yoga Samsiddhim, Aprapya, Kam Gatim Gachati. Arjuna said, O Krishna, not gaining success in yoga, to which end does the one who is endowed with faith in the Shastra, but effort is inadequate, and whose mind wanders away from yoga go. I repeat, Arjuna said, O Krishna, not gaining success in yoga, to which end does the one who is endowed with faith in Shastra, but whose effort is inadequate and whose mind wanders away from yoga go? Let's look at Arjuna's question. Suppose there is a man who has renounced all karmas, meaning Vaidika karmas and Laukika karmas, all the spiritual, social, and family duties that he is allowed to give up if he takes to a life of renunciation, sannyasa. Why does anyone give up all this? In the hope of what? In the hope of gaining this yoga, the vision of Atma in all beings and all beings in Atma Samadarshana. He gives up all types of karma. This particular vision was the end in the view when the person Arjuna was talking about become a sannyasi. So for the Samdarshana, the sannyasi, this particular vision was the, when once he achieves that, it is the end of the view. As a sannyasi, he denied himself the various pleasures that can be picked up by living in the society and became a bhikshu, a person who lives on alms. He has no money and does not know from where his next meal will come. That is, he lives on whatever comes his way. But although he does not have the pleasures that a life of samsara would have given him, renunciation is a good investment because he is going to get the great vision, liberation, moksha. It was for the sake of moksha alone that he gave up the other three human pursuits: security, artha, pleasure, kama, and dharma. So to achieve moksha, the sannyasi has given up the other three means: dharma, kama, and artha. A certain effort is also required. This person has great shraddha in the vision of the Shastra and the possibility of his gaining the knowledge of himself, Atma, being Brahman, is definitely there. He knows that this knowledge is the moksha that he seeks. In the hope of gaining this knowledge, he has taken to the life of sannyasa and continues to be a sannyasi. In time, however, having not yet gained the knowledge, he becomes frustrated. He may have started his pursuit when he was very young and now he is old. Something has prevented him from gaining the knowledge. The teaching may not have been proper, or perhaps he did not have enough inspiration. Or the problem may have been from the past, some backlog, some obstacle from the past. Having reached this point, although he still has Shraddha, he is now an Ayati, meaning that he does not have adequate effort. Yati means a person of effort, one who has the capacity to make right effort, which is why a sannyasi is called a yati. The person has a direction and is committed to a life of renunciation in pursuit of self-knowledge. But the sannyasi Arjuna was talking here about cannot be called a yati. He has become an ayati because adequate effort is not there and he does not know what it is and is incapable of that effort. Repeat once again the paragraph. Yati means a person of effort, one who has the capacity to make right effort, which is why a sannyasi is called a yati. The person has a direction and is committed to a life of renunciation in pursuit of self-knowledge. But the sannyasi Arjuna was talking about cannot be called a yati. He has become an ayati because adequate effort is not there and he does not know what it is and is incapable of that effort. That the effort is not adequate is very clear. Why? Because the problems continue. Things are not very clear to the person and therefore he is a yati. He may have studied and done a lot of meditation, but all that he has accomplished is to become more aged, tired, and frustrated. Chalitatmanasa. Chalitatmanasa. Arjuna wanted to know what would become of this tired, frustrated sannyasi. He has Shraddha and therefore he wants this knowledge. But things are not clear to him at all. Now Arjuna's doubt is what would be his lot if he dies away before gaining the knowledge. Therefore Arjuna asks, what does he gain? Krishna, Kam Gatim Krishna Gachati. That ayati, the person about whom Arjuna is talking about, he is asking Bhagavana what gati he will get, what he will achieve if he dies before he achieves the mokshatva. We know very well what his lot in this life is. He has neither the joys of samsara nor the joy of moksha. The small pleasures of samsara are denied to him and also the pleasures of heaven, since he gave up all the karma that would earn him such pleasure in the hope of gaining jnana. And he does not get jnana either. What then? Is he just left hanging somewhere or what? So here Arjuna is worried about such a person who has neither achieved moksha nor he has gained he has given up the sansara. He has given up all the pleasures of sansara and he has given up all the karma, but he has still not achieved the moksha. And in between, if he leaves his physical body, then what would be the status of that person who is a yati? A person who performs no karma obviously cannot gain the results of karma. Therefore, there is no karma phala for him. Instead of performing karma, he spent his time sitting with his eyes closed, but nothing happened inside, except sleep perhaps. And nothing can be accomplished by sleep. Dreaming or daydreaming at least gives a person some kick. But what does sleep give? Nothing. Therefore, the ayati has not picked up any of the simple joys of samsara, nor has he picked up any punya for the next life. Much less has he gained the knowledge that is liberation. As since he had lived all the sankalpa vikalpa, he has not collected any punya also for the next life. So, what will be his gati? Does the person just fizzle out? Will he become like a cloudlet that has become separated from a body of clouds? Will he just disappear, fizzle out? Is this kingdom lost and the promised kingdom as well? For the sannyasi of inadequate effort who has died, moksha is gone and samsara is also gone, there being no accrued punya. With both of them gone, what will happen to him? Where will he go? Of course, this was an imagined situation on Arjuna's part. He was not himself a sannyasi, but perhaps he planned to become a sannyasi. This did seem to be on his mind, as we saw earlier in the Gita. In any case, Arjuna wants to know exactly what happened to the sannyasi who did not gain the vision. Although this was not Arjuna's immediate problem, his question was a relevant one in terms of understanding what Shastra has to say about sannyas and karma yoga. Arjuna knew Krishna to be the all-knowing Ishvara and therefore qualified to remove this particular doubt.
Jai
No
Gurudev
one
Leela.
Yeah. Is my voice breaking too much?
Yeah. Should I take over?
Yeah, please, please.
Just give me a minute. You can continue to share till I get my
Yeah,
share screen.
yeah. So here, Arjuna has clear faith in Bhagwana. He knew that he is Ishvara and he will be able to answer, although he was not a sannyasi, but as we had seen in the first chapter, that he wanted to leave the battlefield and wanted to be a sannyasi in Rishikesh. So, but he knew, he had the faith that Krishna will be able to solve this particular question, that what will be the gati of such a person who has renounced as sannyasi, but who has not gained the moksha, and the one who has left his samsara through the physical body. So therefore he is asking Bhagwana the question, that what will be the gati of this yati. Please remember the definition of yati. It is very nice definition. But here Arjuna is talking about the yati, the one who has no physical body.
So do we start from here? Does the person just fizzle out?
Yeah, please.
Or even after that?
Yeah, it was little bit late below. Yeah.
Right. Let me read from here. Does the person just fizzle out? Will he become like a cloudlet that has become separated from a body of clouds? Will he just disappear, fizzle out? Is this kingdom lost and the promised kingdom as well? For the sannyasi of inadequate effort who has died, moksha is gone and samsara is also gone, there being no accrued punya. With both of them gone, what will happen to him? Where will he go? Of course, this was an imagined situation on Arjuna's part. He was not himself a sannyasi, but perhaps he planned to become a sannyasi. This did seem to be on his mind, as we saw earlier in the Gita. In any case, Arjuna wants to know exactly what would happen to the sannyasi who did not gain the vision. Although this was not Arjuna's immediate problem, his question was a relevant one in terms of understanding what the Shastra has to say about sannyasa and karma yoga. Arjuna knew Krishna to be the all-knowing Ishvara and therefore qualified to remove this particular doubt. No one else was equal to Krishna. Only he could answer this question, which was a simple one, dealing as it did with what happens after one's life, as we know it, comes to an end. Therefore, Arjuna says, please tell me, Krishna, where does such a person go who has not gained success in yoga in the form of gain of knowledge? Aprapya yoga samsiddhim kam gatim Krishna gacchati. When knowledge is gained, moksha is gained. Therefore, knowledge is called a means for moksha. Thus, Between the knowledge and moksha, there is a connection of means and end. Sadhana, sadhya sambandha. Arjuna wants to know what happens to the person who, having Shraddha and the vision, renounces everything and lives a life of yoga, but does not gain the knowledge that is moksha. Having denied himself the pleasures of samsara and also those of the other world, the person has been performing this yoga, this meditation for a long time, and now he's very old and is dying away. He has given up all hope of gaining anything more in this life, let alone the knowledge that he has pursued for so long. What will happen to him? Will he not be completely destroyed? Arjuna puts this question to Krishna in the next verse. Kachinno bhaya vibhrashtaha छिन्नाभ्रमिव नश्यति अप्रतिष्ठो महाबाहो विमूढ़ो ब्रह्मणः पथि. Mahabaho, O mighty armed Krishna, Brahmanav Pathi, in the path knowledge of Brahman, Vimudhaha, the one who is deluded, Apratishtaha, one who is without any support, Abhaya, Ubhaya Vibhrashtaha, one who has fallen from both, Chinna Abhram Iva, like a cloudlet torn asunder, Kachit Na Nashyati. Is he not destroyed? Mahabaho Brahmanav Pathi Vimudaha Apratishtaha Ubhaya Vibhrashtaha Chinna Abhramiva Kachitna Nashyati. Deluded in the path knowledge of Brahman is one who has fallen from both, being without any support, not destroyed, O mighty armed Krishna, like a cloudlet torn asunder. The person being discussed here is the same sannyasi described previously by Arjuna as Ayati, one whose effort has not been adequate to gain the knowledge that is moksha. Ubhaya Vibhrashta refers to the one who has fallen away from both lifestyles, karma yoga and sannyasa. This person has given up, fallen away from the way of life called karma marga or karma yoga. This karma yoga is a life of activity in which one also pursues the knowledge. The purpose of this lifestyle is to make one ready eventually to pursue knowledge by taking to a life of sannyasa. Because he has slipped away from karma marga, the person is called vibhrashta, with reference to the karma marga. And the life of renunciation, yoga marga, brahmana pantha, for which he gave up karma marga, has also proved to be abortive, fruitless. Therefore, in both, he is the loser. From both, he has fallen away. He is ubhaya vibhrashta. Having fallen away from both, where will he go now? He cannot go back to karma marga because he is perhaps too old to do anything. Besides, it is not proper to go from sannyasa to karma marga. Nor does he have any enthusiasm to do so because he knows the anityatva of it all. Any enthusiasm he may have had for a life of samsara as an aviveki, one without discrimination, is all gone, and he does not have the satisfaction of being a jnani, a wise man either. Therefore, he is ubhaya vibhrashta, hanging somewhere in the middle with no place to go. He cannot identify with the wise sannyasis nor with the ordinary people. Not only does he have no place, no group to identify with, he is also deluded, vimudha. He either feels he has made a mistake or he feels confused about whether he is a jiva, an individual, or param brahma. Since this doubt remains, he has not accomplished anything by having taken to this path, this pursuit of the knowledge of Brahman. So Ubhaya Vibhrashta is the one who has fallen in the sense, has not accomplished the goal, the end goal of either Karma Yoga or Sannyasa.
Hari Om, although Swamiji is describing it as an imaginary problem of Arjuna, but I think isn't it the real problem for most of us, right?
Correct. It is a very valid doubt that Arjuna expressed. Thank God for Arjuna. Because if he was not there, number one, we would not have got the Bhagavad Gita. And because he had these doubts coming up, we would not also have had so many chapters, 18 chapters. Bhagwan would have finished it in the second chapter itself. It was because Arjuna kept having these doubts that Krishna had to keep the explanation going on, answers going on.
Yeah, and every term what Swamiji is explaining, like yati and
Ayati, Yati, Vimudha.
they are so beautiful to remember.
Do you want me to repeat anything from the previous reading?
Yes, please.
Which one do you want? This verse 38, I'll just read one more time, okay? Deluded in the path knowledge of Brahman is one who has fallen from both, being without any support, not destroyed, O mighty armed Krishna, like a cloudlet torn asunder. The person being discussed here is the same sannyasi described previously by Arjuna as Ayati, one whose effort has not been adequate to gain the knowledge that is moksha. Ubhaya Vibhrashta refers to the one who has fallen away from both lifestyles, Karma Yoga and Sannyasa. This person has given up, fallen away from the way of life called Karma Marga or Karma Yoga. This Karma Yoga is a life of activity in which one also pursues the knowledge. The purpose of this lifestyle is to make one ready eventually to pursue knowledge by taking to a life of sannyasa. Because he has slipped away from karma marga, the person is called vibhrashta, with reference to the karma marga, and the life of renunciation, yoga marga, brahmana pantha, for which he gave up karma marga, has also proved to be abortive, fruitless. Therefore, in both, he is the loser. From both, he has fallen away. He is ubhaya vibhrashta. I don't know, here Swamiji has mentioned Yoga Marga as the path of renunciation, but when we read the end of Bhagavad Gita, every chapter, it is Brahma Vidyaya Yoga Shastra. So that Yoga Shastra there actually means Karma Yoga, and Brahma Vidyayam is the Sannyasa Marga. So maybe we should not get confused there. Here it is meant, Yoga Marga here is meant as Sannyasa. Having fallen away from both, where will he go now? He cannot go back to Karma Marga because he is perhaps too old to do anything. Besides, it is not proper to go from Sannyasa to Karma Marga. Nor does he have any enthusiasm to do so because he knows the anityatva of it all. Any enthusiasm he may have had for a life of samsara as an aviveki, one without discrimination, is all gone, and he does not have the satisfaction of being a jnani, a wise man either. Therefore, he is ubhaya vibhrashta. hanging somewhere in the middle with no place to go. He cannot identify with the wise sannyasis nor with the ordinary people. I think this is exactly where we are hanging also.
Yes.
No, you do not gain any enthusiasm in attending all those. If we were attending kitty parties and all those gatherings and social gatherings, we don't have any inclination, or do we have any ruchi for that anymore. At the same time, we cannot identify with the completely enlightened, the jnanis. We are in the middle.
Actually, exactly. Na idhar ke na udhar ke.
Yeah, but we're still connected. So that is the Shraddha is there. That is the one, that thread that connects us still is the faith of Shraddha, is the thread of Shraddha. Not only does he have no place, no group to identify with, he is also deluded, vimudha. He either feels he has made a mistake, or he feels confused about whether he is a jiva, an individual, or param brahma. Since this doubt remains, he has not accomplished anything by having taken to this path, this pursuit of the knowledge of Brahman.
This is the takeaway, Hariom. This doubt, this is the takeaway of the whole. The
Shloka.
doubt should not be there. Yeah, we should not have the doubt. With firm affirmation that we will and we are already there.
Correct. There is no path to Brahman. Shankara clarified the meaning of the word pati, in the path, in his commentary of this verse by adding the word marga, thereby indicating that the lifestyle of sannyasa is what is implied here. There is no way, no path to Brahman as such. You are Brahman. And to gain this knowledge of Brahman, there is a pursuit, the pursuit of knowledge. And in this pursuit, the sannyasi under discussion is deluded, vimudha. Thus, deluded in the path of Brahman means that in gaining the knowledge of Brahman, in the pursuit of that knowledge, he is still confused, still deluded. So there is that veil of ignorance still. He does not need to go somewhere to gain Brahman. He is Brahman. The only thing is that knowledge has not fructified. It has not been successful in uncovering that veil of ignorance. That is the delusion. That is the vimudha. Does such a person not destroy himself? Nashyati nakin? Asking this question, Arjuna compared the destruction to that of a cloudlet that has separated itself from a large body of clouds. Chinna abhramiva. Not wanting to wait for the big body of clouds, perhaps, this cloudlet separates itself in its haste to reach the Himalayas, where it can sit on top of the mountains and not be disturbed. Instead, somewhere in the middle of India, tossed about by the howling winds, it just disappears, fizzles out. Arjuna's, he also was a great literary person. He's also very descriptive in the way he's described this thing as a cloudlet. So too, this person had dropped out of conventional society in his attempt to reach moksha quickly. He may even have gone to sit in the rarefied air of the Himalayas, but instead of becoming a true sannyasi, he became a dropout, just like the cloudlet. Does he not destroy himself in the same way that the cloudlet does? Just as a cloudlet that remains with a large body of clouds can travel along and enjoy the view, so too you can attach yourself to the main body of society and have some of the joys that such a life has to offer. The cloudlet that is prepared to travel at the same slow speed as the big body of clouds can look down at the mountains, up at the stars, and be protected by the winds of destruction. Otherwise, it gets destroyed. If there is no structure, you can become anything. Similarly, when you hurry ahead, you can become completely lost in the process because you have left the structure behind. Sannyasa means just that, no structure. You can become anything. Without a structure, without any particular mode of life, nothing to pressure you into doing anything, you can become lazy also. As a sannyasi, you can also become lazy. When you are hungry, you can go for bhiksha and then lie down back again without doing anything. The life of sannyasa gives you this kind of license. No one is going to question you. Society is not going to question you. And since there is no work for you to do, there is no employer or employee. There is also no father or mother to worry about you, which sometimes keeps people on track. If the sannyasi once had a wife and children, he has given them up also. Therefore, none of the societal norms are there for the sannyasi. Nor is there any religious norm, because the person who takes sannyasa is absolved from performing all the karmas enjoined by the Veda. Therefore, there is no problem. You can be anything you want, even a hippie. Thinking that such a person destroys himself, Arjuna asks Krishna to clear his doubt with reference to the fate of the Ubhaya Vibhrashta. Etanme samshayam Krishna chetumarhasya sheshataha vadanya samshayasyasya chetana hyupapadyate. Krishna, O Krishna, may of mine, etat, this samshayam, doubt, asheshataha, totally, chetum, to eliminate, arhasi, you should, he, for, tvadanyaha, other than you, asya samshayasya, of this doubt, cheta, the remover, na upapadyate, is not there. Krishna, me etat samshayam asheshataha chetum arhasi. He tvadanyaha asya samshayasya cheta na upapadyate. You should eliminate this doubt of mine totally, O Krishna, for other than you, there is no one who can be the remover of this doubt. This only points out to the implicit faith that Arjuna had in Krishna. The faith that he is the go-to. Nobody else can remove this doubt except Krishna. Arjuna knows that there was no one else who could answer this question, his question. Only the all-knowing Krishna as Ishvara could answer it, because only Ishvara knows what will happen to the sannyasi after he dies away from this life without gaining knowledge of the self. Cheta means the one who cuts or removes. Here it refers to the one who removes the doubt. Krishna then was the hitman for the doubt. In fact, the only possible hitman. He alone was capable of eliminating Arjuna's doubts totally. Anyone else would have to say, this is what the Shastra says. Whereas Krishna is the one who initiated the Shastra itself, as he said at the beginning of the 4th chapter. I gave this eternal knowledge to Vivaswan, who gave it to Manu, who gave it to Ikshvaku. Imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam. Vivaswan manave praha manurikshvakave bravit. Therefore, Krishna as Ishvara knew what it was all about. He also told Arjuna earlier that they had a number of births before, but only he, Krishna, knew these births while Arjuna did not. Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacharjuna tanyaham veda sarvani natvam vedha parantapa. This was in the 4th chapter, the 5th verse. Yeah. From this, Arjuna concludes that Krishna knows what happens to a soul after death and therefore is the right person to talk about it. Arjuna is praising his guru here, saying that there was no one equal to Krishna, no one who could eliminate his doubt totally. In other words, no one else is qualified to answer his question. Had Arjuna not asked this question, the Gita would have ended 3 verses ago. But because Arjuna asks the question, Krishna begins talking again. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Partha naiveha namutra vinashastasya vidyate nahi kalyana krit kaschit durgatim tata gacchati. Shri Bhagavan, Lord Krishna, Uvacha said, Partha, O son of Pritha, tasya, for him or her, vinashaha, destruction, iha, here, na eva vidyate, indeed is not, na nor, amutra, in the hereafter, tata, O my son Arjuna, he, because, kaschit, anyone, kalyana krita, the one who performs good actions, durgatim, bad end, na gacchati, na reaches. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Partha tasya vinashaha iha na eva vidyate na amutra tata ki kaschit kalyana krit durgatim na gacchati. Shri Bhagavan said, indeed, O son of Pritha Arjuna, there is no destruction for him or her, neither here nor in the hereafter, because anyone who performs good actions never reaches a bad end. Again, the person being discussed in this verse is that sannyasi, that yogi, who was referred to previously as Ubhaya Vibhrashta, one who has fallen from both Karma Marga and Yoga Marga for the reasons we have already seen. In fact, the person is not Ubhaya Vibhrashta because here Krishna says that there is no falling as such. For the sannyasi who has not completed the job properly, destruction is not there. Vinashaha na vidyate, either here in this world, iha, or in any other world, amutra. Why? Because this person, although an ayati, has shraddha in the Shastra. Having shraddha, there can be no loss for him in this life, and therefore, in the life of sannyasa is not a bad investment. He knows what it is all about. Because he has shraddha, there is no question of his being frustrated or sad in this world. He will simply continue to pursue the knowledge pleasantly, happily, until he gains it. And if shraddha were not to be there, the person would naturally think that he had made a mistake. Thinking so, he would always go back. In either case, then the problem of his being sad for what he has undertaken would not be there for the person. Nor will there be a problem later, that is, after death. Amutra, Krishna says. He will come back to a situation that is conducive to the continuation of his pursuit of the knowledge that will give him moksha. Thus, Krishna assures Arjuna that destruction is definitely not there for him. Vinashaha tasya na vidyate. I will just read the previous paragraph at the time. For the sannyasi who has not completed the job properly, destruction is not there. Vinasha na vidyate. Either here in this world, iha, or in any other world. Amutra. Why? Because this person, although an ayati, has shraddha in the Shastra. Having shraddha, there can be no loss for him in this life, and therefore the life of sannyasa is not a bad investment. He knows what it is all about. Because he has shraddha, there is no question of his being frustrated or sad in this world. He will simply continue to pursue the knowledge pleasantly, happily, until he gains it. And if shraddha were not to be there, the person would naturally think that he had made a mistake. Thinking so, he would always go back. In either case, then the problem of his being sad for what he has undertaken would not be there for the person. Nor will there be a problem later, that is after death. Amutra. Krishna says, he will come back to a situation that is conducive to the continuation of his pursuit of the knowledge that will give him moksha. Thus, Krishna assures Arjuna that destruction is definitely not there for him. Vinashaha tasya na vidyate. Should we stop here and do Manana, or you want me to continue? I think it goes on for some time. Yeah, there are still, I think, 2 pages. But there is not really much to discuss here. It is only plain questions that Arjuna has asked, isn't it? Unless anyone wants to share and add to this. In that case, I will just continue till I finish this stanza. The sannyasi never comes to a bad end. Destruction here can only mean that the person comes back to a life that is worse than before, meaning that he gains a worse birth, a lower birth than the one he had previously had. But this will not happen, Krishna says. There will be a higher birth, a better birth, because the person has lived a good life. He is a Kalyana Krita. Kalyana means moksha, and this person has taken a step towards moksha by living the life of sannyasa. The Kalyana Krit is not a dropout or a hippie. For the sake of moksha, which implies an understanding of Ishvara, the person has given up everything. And being a Kalyana Krita, the person does not come to a bad end. Durgatim na gacchati. Anyone, kaschit, who has done good action, charitable action, does not gain an undesirable end. At the worst, such a person just proceeds from birth to birth, depending on the accumulated karma that precipitates a new body. But once a person makes a step for the sake of moksha, whatever he or she has done before has already paid off. The moment the person turns his or her attention towards himself or herself, there is no going back. Taking care of anatma is for atma alone. Generally, a person only goes after anatma, not atma. For example, the physical body being anatma, how to take care of it is also anatma. How to take care of my mind is with reference to anatma. How to take care of my money, power, family is all with reference to anatma. How to take care of my future, meaning my next body, is also regarding anatma. Like this, Everyone is interested in taking care of Anatma alone and struggles to do so constantly, which is such a paradox.
Yeah, that's,
Such a
we always looking for the objective life, right? Not subjective life. All this
not
time.
just even objective, it is also here, even the body and mind, of course, are anatma. Even taking care of your own mind is with reference to anatma.
Yeah,
How,
that's basically it's like it's not, you're not looking in itself, that's
yeah,
what I meant. Yeah.
yeah,
More in the subject object
correct.
sense. Yeah, like
How to
I was
take,
reading something in Tamil, like it's called, I don't know if it's in Telugu or not. It's called Kaivalya Navanitam. There were few songs that was saying that what we read in Tattva Bodh, I think it was translated in one of this language where it said, who we had, you remember we read about that three adhikaris like Uttama, Madhya,
yeah,
Adhikari. So as per the Kali Yuga, that we are also lazy, and I mean we don't do that hard work like to learn everything from Sanskrit. I mean that's what this in Tamil they translated one of the Swamiji named Tandavaraya Swamigal or something. Somebody. He's from. He's saying that all things that we read, it's almost in Tamil. The one thing it hit me was that. Uh, how that this all this jnanis like where the Vyasa, the Shankara, all these Swamijis, they this Veda and Vedanta is all like a big ocean, the milk ocean, and then they took it out of that milk, churned it and gave it like a butter for us to eat it. So is it so hard for you to eat the butter? Like that's how they have this bhashyam and this sutras and all that. They gave it in a easy form for us to absorb uh, about the information about this self-realization. So that was interesting to see, how they put the example of from the milk and making a yogurt and churning it out and getting it as a butter.
so good, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
It is
a
like
kind.
opening a banana and asking you, hey, come on, eat it.
Eat it, yeah,
Eat it.
like that, So we are having so much difficulty to do that.
To even do that. We are only holding on to the peel and not eating the banana.
Right.
So
funny.
beautiful, right? Very nice.
Yeah, Navanitam means butter. My grandmother name is Navanitam. I didn't know the name.
Wow.
Yeah, it's butter, and Kaivalya means I think it's this moksha, like, or
Yeah.
it's it's about that. Mm-hmm.
Talking of names, my son's name is Kalyan. And
Uh,
now I only understood Kalyan as welfare, as, well-being and all that. But now, for
mm,
me, the description that Swamiji gave, Kalyana is actually moksha. So it's a
mm,
huge jump from just welfare to moksha. So
moksha.
it's a beautiful revelation today for me.
Yeah, like when we read about Brahmara, that's when I knew that B, that meaning of your name.
Correct.
That was really nice. Yeah, the nectar of collecting all the nectar. That's really nice. Mm.
Even my daughter's name is Nitya. It's somebody suggested. Now, after in this Manana, which we are doing, I really know the meaning in detail.
Yeah.
What is Nitya and such a beautiful name.
Mm. We say what is in a name, but then the name itself can take you to greater heights of evolution. When you
It's
chant,
like,
for instance, like the mantra, for instance, all of
yeah,
this, No?
That's the reason they all named you with the kind of name, right? Like when the people call you with that name, they like Krishna or Muruga or something like that, they drama, they call you so many times and then they would have said the names of God so many times,
Yeah.
knowingly, unknowingly, you keep saying it.
Mm.
That's a positive thing.
Gurudev has also said about Navanita. You remember? He said that Krishna, why
Yeah,
is he known as the butter thief?
yeah, they
That
sing a song, it's called Navanita Krishnan, so
Navanita Chora. Navanita Chora.
Navanita the Chora,
yeah,
yeah.
butter
So
thief.
they're now butter, yeah.
Because
Yeah,
Gurudev says that when your
Chora
mind
means,
becomes like butter,
butter, yeah.
very soft, very pure, very innocent, then Krishna steals that heart. So that's why he is known as Navanita Chora, the one who steals the heart of even the sannyasis, the established sannyasis.
Yeah, that's right. Is Suma, do you read Tamil or you, this one is really,
I do read Tamil, but it's
mm,
ages since I have read, so I'm not
yeah.
very fast.
No, it's not reading, it's,
I
you can
studied
listen
Tamil
also.
in school.
Oh, okay, good.
But which book are you recommending?
No, it's not recommending. They have this thing called Kaivalya Navanitam. That's what I was listening on one of this Swamiji. He gives meaning of all this. Even the Tamils, the poetry, we don't know the exact meaning of all the words. So he explains it. That was really neat.
Oh, okay, very nice.
Mm. Even they described about Shravanam and what do you call that? Mananam, like how we listen, and the Manana is what we are supposed to, like in this Manana class, like every time, yeah, anybody can, say something. I think individually, everyone should kind of say what do you listen. That's part is Manana is like what you understood. Like I felt so bad like listening to that. Half the time it didn't respond. So I really had to pay attention to every line when we are reading.
Yeah, not only
I
pay attention, also should forward.
Uh,
See, we
yeah,
have such a
yeah,
beautiful platform where
yeah.
everyone has an opportunity to share.
Right.
Only when
That's what
you
I'm
share,
saying. Like
only when you start speaking, you will start realizing how much,
we
whether you
grasped the information or
understood,
understood it.
whether
Yeah.
better, another way of looking at it. There's so much, and everybody can contribute to everybody else's understanding.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to tell you. I kind of missed like a front part of it. Like I was going to ask you later on, like to summarize a little bit.
Which
So
one? You mean the beginning aspect of from the starting today?
yeah, the previous
Okay.
the one, yeah. But
Yeah.
anyway, you finish with this one and then
I think we'll
we'll
stop
take it.
here today for this.
Stop here.
We will
Okay,
move
okay.
shloka number 6. 6, 6 and
Oh, okay. 6.
6.
Okay.
But
Yesterday
I
we
will just
did
read.
5, right?
I will-
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yesterday we
Sure.
finished 5. I will
Sure.
just read the shloka for your thing so that we can summarize what Arjuna. Today we covered quite a few shlokas because it was very direct and plain. It was nothing much to really understand. It was
Okay.
Arjuna asking. Arjuna asking Krishna what happens to this person who does not reach the goal, or he does not attain moksha. What happens to him?
Yeah. Mm.
I think we started from Arjuna, Krishna's asam
Asamyatatmana yogo dushprapa iti me matihi vashyatmana tu yatata shakyo vaptumupayataha. This is what Krishna says. Yoga is gained for the one by whom the mind is not mastered. This is my vision. Whereas it can be gained by the one whose mind is mastered, who makes effort with the proper means, that is practice and objectivity. So this is where Krishna ends.
That's the abhyasa and the
Abhyasa and Vairagya.
Vairagya. Yeah.
Arjuna Uvacha. Then Arjuna presents another problem. It's an imagined problem. Ayate shraddhayopeto yoga chalita manasaha aprapya yoga samsiddhin kam gatin Krishna gacchati. He says, O Krishna, not gaining success in yoga, to which end does the one who is endowed with faith in the Shastra, but whose effort is inadequate and whose mind wanders away from yoga go? So where does this person go? And then, Kachinno bhaya vibhrashtaha chinna bramiva nashyati apratishto mahabaho vimudho brahmana pathi. Deluded in the path, knowledge of Brahman, is one who is fallen from both, being without any support, not destroyed. Is he not destroyed? O mighty armed Krishna, like a cloudlet torn asunder.
What does that mean? Cloudlet? Asunder
Cloudlet
is like a
main cloud. The cloudlet wants to gain moksha. So it separates itself from the main cloud and wants to kind of reach, the way his Swamiji's explained, is to reach the Himalayas. But in its in the path, it gets torn asunder by the winds, by the sun, whatever comes in the path. And then it just destroys itself. Whereas along with the main body of the cloud, it is kind of protected, so to say. It can still enjoy the sights and the vision of everything down. So the main cloud is like the you could take it as samsara as a samsari. This person, in the pursuit of moksha, he tears himself away and starts going away. So that is Arjuna's description, but Krishna answers it. There's one more question Arjuna asks, and then Krishna answers it. Etat me samshayam Krishna chetumarhasya sheshataha twadanyas samshayasya chetana hyupapadyate. You should eliminate this doubt of mine totally, O Krishna, for other than you, there is no one who can be the remover of this doubt. And then Bhagavan says, Shri Bhagavan Partha Naiveha Namutra Vinashastasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Krit Kaschit Durgatim Tata Gacchati. Here Krishna just kind of does not consider it like a cloudlet at all. Bhagavan says, indeed, O son of Pritha, there is no destruction for him or her, neither here nor in the hereafter, because anyone who performs good actions never reaches a bad end. And then he goes on. We'll take care of this, taking care of Anatma alone from
Atma, alone.
Yeah, Arjuna's question is, a person either on the Karma Yoga, or he actually imagines it to be the thing of a sannyasi. If he takes to the path of sannyasa, but before attaining this, he gives up his physical body. What happens to him? Is he not destroyed like a cloudlet that in the pursuit of moksha gets lost somewhere, gets destroyed? What happens? So he neither gets this life nor that life. He's neither here nor there. But then Krishna says, there is no destruction. Vinashastasya vidyate.
Right.
Na iha na amutra. Either here nor in the hereafter. Nahi kalyanakrit kaschit durgatim tatagachat. There is never a bad end that a person who is pursuing moksha gets. Yeah, so that is the
Yeah, I
reassurance.
think the same question, Dr. Savita asked one time, I think, but of course, there was the one who attained Jiva Mukti. They live until their prarabdha is done. But then, like us, who pursuing some of this, you will be born into a family kind of, right? Then pursue that later on. I mean, the next birth.
Yeah, that is what Krishna will explain.
Explain that.
But one takeaway is a person who has Shraddha. The reason why he is not destroyed is because he has Shraddha. He has Shraddha in the Shastra. Therefore, he happily takes another birth, doesn't matter how many ever births. He is happily pursuing this path. He says there is no path to Brahman because you are Brahman. The only path is the knowledge, the karma marga or the yoga marga, which is the to the thing. So the sadhana, sadhya sambandha is created there. The sadhya vastu is moksha. Sadhana is knowledge, karma yoga, all of this. So he'll continue to pursue this path, the path of either karma or yoga, because faith in the Shastra, that he will ultimately recognize the Atma. That is why again, Shraddhavan labhate jnanam tatpara samyatendriyaha. That verse that we learned in, I think, chapter 5, maybe, or chapter 4, was it?
Shraddhavan labhate, yeah.
Shraddhavan labhate jnanam tatpara samyatendriyaha. Jnanam labdhva param shantin nachirenadi gacchati. So having that implicit faith is such an important important tool for us. In that Shraddha is one part of the Shat Sampatti. Shama, Dama, Uparama, Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhanam.
Yeah, that we read all the 6, a lot of count of 6 we read.
Correct.
Remember Sama, Dama, Uparama, Titiksha, Shraddha, and then Samadhana. And then Mumukshitvam is the next one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the thing, like the Anupanda Sadhushtayam, and this is the, what is this Sadhushtayam is?
This
Anupanta,
is
Anupanta, and then this one is, I don't remember, it was not karma, but then again, Sadhana Chadushtayam. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
The 4
and
pillars
then, yeah. And then the one about Bhagavan, remember we talked about 6, Bhaga means 6.
The 6 wells.
6 qualities, right? Like Aishwaryam, fame, and then
it's absolute fame, absolute knowledge, absolute vairagya.
Wisdom, wisdom, and then the Shreya,
power
that
to create
the
and sustain.
And then the money, right? Like money, and then
Aishwarya.
No, you say yes.
Shreya.
yes,
Yes,
Shreya, yeah, Shreya, what do you call that? Yeah, I'm trying to think in Sanskrit word, yashas or something like that you say, right?
Yes, yes.
For the
May I
yashas.
request someone to make a list of all this and put it in the group? 'Cause
Okay,
I
I'll
don't
do
keep
that.
it.
I'll put it.
Okay.
I had to find out the Sanskrit words. I wrote it down somewhere when I read that. I mean, we did that long time ago. And it just that Bhagavan says, like,
Yeah. It's nice to do a little bit of recap so
right?
that we,
Yeah, I'll put some, I will find out. I thought I only got 5 of that. Let's remember what was the 6th one. Anyway, so yeah, we got to look at the books to see what we read. Anyway, who is doing number 6?
shloka number 6. So in shloka 5, Bhagwan says, you are your own benefactor as well as beneficiary. And you are also your own friend or your own enemy. And any bandhu, another person cannot become a bandhu, a benefactor for you, to become free of this samsara. Only you can do what is to be done. To grow or to mature within the samsara, another person may be helpful to you. But to get out of the samsara, you have to release yourself. In fact, where moksha is concerned, the very person who was previously your benefactor could very well become an obstruction to you. Bandhu implies affection and friendship, which can also be binding, even though such qualities may be quite helpful to one's emotional growth. Therefore, in the final analysis, in terms of gaining moksha, you are the only one who can be a friend to yourself. And unless you become a friend to yourself, you become inimical to yourself and become your own enemy.
You know, in this whole play, even from the beginning, it's found this thing, you're responsible for yourself. And
Correct.
every time, we turn around somewhere
Your voice is
along the line.
very
Sorry.
remote. Your voice, yeah.
Okay. No, I just, I kind of kept it at a distance, my pad. No, like, this particular point, we think we are not, somebody else responsible for our health or our family, or, time to time it comes to your head like that. But this is again, it says that yourself, everything is yourself. You have to be responsible for everything. And it kind of makes you that kind of sets you path, like you are attached to family and things like that. This is one way to kind of think about it. Little detachment in that aspect, thinking about this way.
So there are only two things with respect to your mind. You can either be your mind's your own friend. If you're not the friend, you become the enemy. So that is what we have to decide and work on. And that is the abhyasa. There's abhyasa, repeatedly creating that gap between the Atma and everything that is Anatma. Further, Krishna continues, Bandhuratmatmanastasya yenatmaivatmana jitaha anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat.
Ena, by whom? Atmana eva, by oneself alone. Atma, oneself. Jitaha, has been mastered. Tasya, for that person or self. Atma, the self. Atmanaha, of oneself. Bandhuhu, friend. Tu, whereas. Anatmanaha, for the self who has not mastered oneself. Atma, the self. Eva, alone. Shatruvata, like an enemy. Shatrutve, in the status of an enemy. Varteta, would remain. Ena atmana eva atma jitaha tasya atma atmanaha bandhu tu anatmanaha atma eva shatruvat shatrutve varteta. For that self who has mastered oneself by oneself, the self alone is a friend of oneself. Whereas for the person who has not mastered oneself, the self alone would remain in the status of an enemy, like an enemy. Tasya here refers to the Atma, oneself, discussed in the previous verse. For that self, the self is a friend. When the self has been won over, jitaha. And what self is being discussed here? What Atma can be won over? It cannot be Satchit Ananda Atma, because I can only win over something that I can objectify. And the only object in which I have the I notion, Atma Buddhi, is the Karya Karana Sanghata, the body, mind, sense complex. It is this complex, then, that is in one's hands and has to be mastered. Won over by whom? By oneself, Atmana, meaning by one's own inquiry, by one's own discipline, by one's own will and effort. We've already reached our time. Let me know whether we will continue this tomorrow, because we have only a little bit. If you all agree, I will just go so that from tomorrow we can carry on with Shloka 7.
Yeah, I don't mind. Thank you.
Please go ahead.
Because otherwise we're not making much progress in this part. Tasya here refers to the Atma, oneself, discussed in the previous verse. For that self, the self is a friend. When the self has been won over, jitaha. And what self is being discussed here? What Atma can be won over? Or did I read this already? Yeah, I finished this. No? The three powers at our disposal. The one who has mastered the body, mind, sense complex is called a Vashi and is a friend to himself or herself. The body, mind, sense complex serves this person with the threefold powers, Shaktis, it is endowed with. The power to think, explore, know, and remember, Jnana Shakti. The power to desire, to will, Ichcha Shakti. And the power to act, to make or do, Kriya Shakti. These three powers are at the disposal of one who is a Vashi, the one who has mastery over the entire Karya Karana Sanghata. So the Jnana Shakti is the power to think, explore, know, and remember. I'm just looking back at how Nana remembers so many. I mean, he connects one shloka to the other at his age. And at our age, when we're trying to remember, our remembering capacity is not kind of fully blossomed, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
Because
when the Shraddha is what matters here, like sometimes I think it's there, but it is not there all the time.
correct,
That's my problem too.
correct. We
So
don't
we
need
have
to
to
establish
admit that
ourselves.
problem. Yeah, that Shraddha is like you have to make a point. 100% you are here and then do it, and eventually you'll get it. again, like you said, the repetition also needed, right? Like we are
Correct.
kind of have to keep doing it. Hopefully we'll get it.
So a person who is a Vashi, has mastered the body, mind, sense complex, is endowed with these three Shaktis: Jnana Shakti, Ichha Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. When you have mastery over the body, mind, and senses, then all their powers are with you. Therefore, the Karya Karana Sanghata becomes a benefactor for gaining that which is desirable. It can take you anywhere, to Brahmaloka or even to Brahman, to moksha. This is the maximum it can do, because you cannot become greater than Brahman. You are already Brahman, in fact. As one who has mastery over the body, mind, sense complex, you are endowed with the powers. You require to recognize this fact. Because you can gain punya by following a life of dharma, the Karya Karana Sanghata again becomes a bandhu. And for gaining moksha, it also becomes a benefactor to you. Thus, the same Karya Karana Sanghata, the body, mind, sense complex, is a benefactor to you all the way, provided, of course, that it is won over by you. So whether you are a dharmi or a mumukshu, the Karya Karana Sanghata, the moment you master it, it only is a benefactor for you. Now, suppose this body, mind, sense complex is not won over by you, but instead is holding you hostage. Then what happens? The body, mind, sense complex cannot become a bandhu for you. Instead, you are a bandhu for the body, mind, and senses. In this way, the same Atma, Karya Karana Sanghata, becomes Ripu, an enemy, one who creates obstructions for you, one who puts the proverbial spokes in your wheels.
Wow, that's really neat. Have it. You want me to read the Dr.
No, that's okay.
You're okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Now, suppose this body, I'll read this again. Suppose this body, mind, sense complex is not won over by you, but instead is holding you hostage. Then what happens? The body, mind, sense complex cannot become a bandhu for you. Instead, you are a bandhu for the body, mind, and senses. In this way, the same Atma, Karya Karana Sanghata, becomes Ripu, an enemy, one who creates obstructions for you, one who puts the proverbial spokes in your wheels. The person who does not have Atma, oneself, in his or her own hands is called Anatma in this verse. This is the person for whom the Karya Karana Sanghata remains as an enemy alone, meaning that the self plays the role of an enemy. Krishna makes it very clear that there is no enemy other than oneself alone.
This para wasn't clear to me. So,
the person who does not have Atma, oneself, in his or her own hands is called Anatma. In this verse, see this particular verse, that is why Nana says, you're pertaining to every verse, because in this verse, Atma here is actually the mind. It is not Satchidananda. Similarly, when you don't have mind under control, that is called Anatma.
Okay.
This is the person for whom the Karya Karana Sanghata remains an enemy as an enemy alone, meaning that the self plays the role of an enemy. Self here is not Satchidananda. The self here is the Atma,
the mind,
which is not under control.
The mind is not under control.
Correct. Okay. Krishna makes it very clear that there is no enemy other than oneself alone.
Generally, we point a finger at someone other than ourselves and declare that the person as an enemy. This is done by everyone to some degree or other. And if no one is available locally, Satan or some other planet will be accused. Everyone feels
That is true.
everyone feels persecuted by someone or something. We always point fingers to everybody else. Now we don't look at ourselves inside. Always there is some imagined fear in people that makes makes them point at someone as an enemy. By doing this, of course, you are giving the other person a handle with which he or she can disturb you. No one can disturb you unless you allow them to. This needs to be underlined, actually. Nevertheless, people do have this persecution problem to some extent, and they suffer from it. In fact, whenever you point out an enemy with your index finger, your accusing finger, there are 3 remaining fingers that point back towards yourself. These 3 fingers, therefore, are said to stand for the physical body, mind, and senses. The Karya Karana Sanghata, that is Atma, oneself, the only enemy there is. In this way, then, Atma occupies the place of the enemy. Just like an external enemy, it is inimical to you. So instead of pointing out fingers like this, you have to make it into a chin mudra. So that, remember in the
we did this, right?
in the Prarthana shlokas, the description of the chin mudra was given. How you take care of the other 3, the Karya Karana Sanghata, the other 3 fingers. Then the mind and the ego bends down to the Atma and becomes one. The whole, that circle is that whole.
That circle is the whole, yeah.
So instead of blaming others, you use the same hand, but you can look within. And then you become your own friend. No one can disturb you unless you allow them to. I think this sentence, if we can kind of repeatedly go back to, then you
The
will
mind.
take responsibility for
Yeah.
everything going through.
It's true.
You will
That's,
not blame others. We'll say,
even
no,
like when
don't make
you
me angry. We also say, don't disturb me or don't make me angry. You will not get disturbed unless no one can disturb you unless you choose, allow them to. Nobody can make you angry unless you allow them to. So that wall, that gate, we have to keep our toll gate over there. And that we should make that toll gate very expensive. We should not let them, enter and disturb the calm that we are. You take your mind wherever you go. When you analyze your complaints, you find that they are mental, meaning they are of the mind. You allow yourself to be affected by the world, and then afterwards, you call the word bad and renounce it. You want to renounce this world you have labeled bad and go to a world that you have imagined to be good, which is called fantasy. But when you go to this good world, you find it is as bad as the one you left behind. Why? Because you carry your mind, the enemy, with you. You do not leave it behind. The same mind that interpreted the world as bad is not given up. And with that mind, you move to the so-called good world. In this way, then the mind is carried with you wherever you go. Even if you go to heaven, you will find problems there because the same mind goes with you. It is carried forward and carried over. And having the same mind with you, the same complaining mind, you always find reason enough to complain, whatever the place or the circumstances. This is what Krishna means when he says that one is indeed like an enemy for oneself. When you carry such a mind with you, mind that is always interpreting given situations according to its own notions, even your guru, considered to be a great bandhu, benefactor, cannot help you. What can any guru do if the person is always thinking, my guru does not care about me, I don't think he considers me a good student, and so on? One makes such conclusions because of that same mind alone. Finally speaking, then, you are the only bandhu there is. In the next verse, Krishna discusses the person who has been a friend to himself or herself.
I have a question for you, Dr. Samara.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is a nice thing we are reading, but then again, it came to me like when you have these people with the mental health issues, right? Like, I mean, there's a lot of issues, but when you see children like personality disorder, they call, right? Like where they have poor self-image, they hurt themselves and stuff like that. And do you do anything? I mean, with that, I hear that all the time. They like Persiji also talk about. Um, is there anything they do in the spiritual path?
I think it is it's a mix, right, of their prarabdha. Because of their prarabdha, that is why they are the way they are.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
And
what I
again,
thought also, the karma,
it
but
depends.
then
I think you can link that to what we read today as what Krishna was answering. In what Krishna answers, there is no
right.
destruction for this person. So if at all he has had, it is all the strength of his, how much he's walked on the path of moksha, which will determine.
Yeah, a lot of kids, like one of my colleagues' daughter, going through some tough time like that. I was thinking about why in the world, they get this kind of problems. They have everything, and
I'm only
anyway,
reminded of what Nana said. Of course, as human beings, we think about why are there people born in poverty-ridden countries? Why are there people who are mentally challenged? He says, what are you here for this knowledge? Why are you pursuing this knowledge? Not that you should not be empathetic and compassionate with them. Of course, yes, that is completely different. But then it is the mind's way of kind of sidetracking it. You have to bring back your mind. You are here for yourself. You are here to uplift yourself. Again, coming back to the 5th and the 6th shloka. Uddhare Atmana. It does not mean you should not have your humanness and do whatever you can for them. If you're given a situation where you're facing such a person, then go ahead and do whatever service is required to be done. That apart, having stepped onto the path of moksha, that that one-pointedness, that single-pointed, should I say, ascent to effort should be there towards evolving yourself. No?
Right.
Otherwise, it's like a distraction there.
Thinking is like, of course, the front is the Korean background, but whatever background they are, I mentioned some of these things, maybe she should do some mental, like yoga, the meditation,
Yeah, of course.
things like that.
That is the best
They
thing that
would,
can happen to them.
yeah,
Is to be in the space. I know one of my friends whose daughter is, I know it's already time. I don't want to take more time, maybe just a minute. She is mentally challenged. But this mother is so devoted. I mean, she's an art of living devotee. She has dedicated her life to taking care of a child. At the same time, this girl, she's now, I think, in her early 20s. She has not only learned the Kriya, she's learned also the Sahaj, the mother nature that she does. And this girl draws only pictures of Krishna. He says, he is my friend. He is my friend. That is all she does. Can you imagine from what level to what level the mother is done for her?
That's
Otherwise,
really nice.
you would have been just attending some, some behavior therapy classes, some classes here and there, and have a life of redundancy. But the mother has aided her in uplifting herself. So this girl, probably in her next birth, will of course have a better life. I mean, it'll more conducive life, should I say. So that, yes, that if you are given a situation where you can reach out and do something for them, go ahead and do. But, all these are again like pratibandhakas, no? These little doubts that come up. Why are they like that?
No, I mean, as we're reading this, like we have this your own enemy, right? Like
Correct.
this kind of things. So we think they're all, I mean, they're born all like a child and as any normal kid. And these all happen, some of these things are environmental or you have to put a finger on. I mean, I don't want to take your time also, but just a thought. Thank you.
Correct.
Can I say something here?
Yes, go ahead.
Gurudev has said that some people come into this world only to receive seva. And then the other thing that comes to my mind is Gahano Karmanagati. So we don't know what is the karma of each soul. These two things came up in my mind for whatever was being discussed. Thank you.
Yeah, you're right.
By diverting our attention to these things again and again is not going to help us in any way. And when we are in the class, then I think so we completely should do the samarpan to Krishna and be in that to uplift ourselves. That is the most important thing to hold on to continuously with Shraddha.
Yeah.
I have a small doubt. Can I ask it today or should I wait for tomorrow?
Yeah. Go ahead, Suma.
It is about anatma. When what you read, anatma is the mind that is not in your control. Isn't that? Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. And atma refers to the mind that is under your control. That is the Sat Chittananda Atma.
No, the Atma here is not Satchidananda.
That verse specifically, right?
Maybe what we'll do tomorrow when we're doing Latik Lavlinji, is she there or she left? Who is supposed to do 7? Shloka 7? Was it Simi or Lavleen? I can't remember.
Yeah, me, Ramradi, me.
So you be prepared for your 7th verse tomorrow, Simiji. We'll just run through this bit reading and then we'll go to the 7th verse.
Yeah. No.
We'll take it up tomorrow, Suma. We'll go through that one more time.
Okay.
Here, Atma in this particular verse, in the verses 5 and 6, Atma means the mind. It is not Satchidananda. That Swamiji and even Shankara made in his commentary very clear. It is not the Satchidananda that is being talked about. Uddhared Atman Atmanam. Atma Atmanam. There, the Atma is not Satchidananda. It is you. It's the mind. With your mind,
thank you.
Become a friend to yourself. Uddhared Atman. Lift yourself by yourself. Yeah?
Yeah, I was suddenly what in Buddhism they say, no, anatma. So that is different. That what they call anatma is the
they don't believe in Atma actually, right?
They don't believe in Atma.
Right.
So that Atma is the self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
So we'll continue tomorrow. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Thank you.